There she is.
You're just giving me the business every day now.
Yeah, look, I am on a schedule, a time crunch.
How are you on a time crunch?
But you know, I am a
Your
very,
life is
very busy
fucking
person.
worthless. You have two kids. There's no value left to your life.
I got a lot of stuff going
Life
on
is
here. A lot of
over,
stuff.
man.
Making moves,
Life is over for you. It's been over for a long fucking time. You and those
making moves,
two
pal.
fucking burdens you drag behind you.
Well, at least one's working now.
Psh, psh, psh,
What?
psh. We'll see how long that
No?
lasts. We'll see how long. Listen, this is like my roommate moving out. We'll see. We'll see. See how long he
Well,
keeps. We'll see
he's
how long he
doing.
holds
Look,
this
I will
job.
tell you, he's doing pretty good. He's holding the job. He's all the other kids in high school always want to leave early, and he's like, "Can I stay?"
Let me let
And
me
I was like,
tell
"Yeah, if they
let me
ask
tell
me
you
to."
something. This is all fine and good, but a leopard doesn't change his spot. So let's wait and see how long before shitty attitude Magoo raises his ugly head at work,
I don't know.
and
I don't know.
and gets asked to not come back. Let's just see.
He
I
got
mean,
he
he's
got a little.
he's not
He got
he's not called Nick the Dick for nothing.
well. He got a he gets like commission for every sale over $100 or something. He had a $300 sale grand opening day yesterday, so
Yeah,
he was all pumped about that.
yeah.
And then he was like, "Hey,
No,
can I
he
get
wants an
$30 to
advance,
buy a
didn't he? He
hat?"
wanted an advance
Yeah.
offer.
Oh, he wanted an advance,
I knew it
and
was.
I
I
said,
knew it was coming. I knew that. That's the only thing I could think of he would have asked for.
he said, "Can I have $30 to buy a hat?" And I said, "You can buy it on Friday when you get your first paycheck, pal, because it ain't coming out of my pocket."
Right,
He's like,
and
"I'll pay you back." I was like, "Nope."
no, no, because you and I know how
Yep.
you and I when we were his age knew how that worked. If you got the advance and then you forgot to pay, conveniently forgot to pay mom or dad back, and they because they actually have a crazy life, forget to collect on it. Next thing you know, you've
Right.
come on, what did
Yeah.
we? He
I told he texted me that from inside the building, and I said, "No, no, no." So he gets in the car and he's like, "It was a nice hat." I was like, "Well, you get paid Friday, and if you have any money left over after you pay me, you can buy the hat." And
and
he's
wait,
like,
hold
"I don't
on, but
like this."
also, how's he get paid?
He gets paid with this
Is he getting a
card or something.
what?
They
Like,
give like a card, like a debit card.
well, this is the most bizarre thing.
Yeah,
They load a debit card for him.
it's like a you can use it everywhere.
Well,
Yeah,
then I was gonna
it's
say
crazy.
usually like they hand you a check. You're not usually direct deposit the first fucking week you work at a place. So, like him getting paid on Friday doesn't necessarily mean he has the money available to him on Friday. Especially if he
Yeah,
did,
no,
especially if he
yeah.
didn't have like a bank account or something where he could go up to a
He
teller
doesn't.
and get it cashed. And you got to like take a picture of it and do an e-deposit. That don't go through right away. I mean, unless
No, he gets this like debit card gimmick, and then he
yeah.
can use that. But it doesn't matter. I was like, he was like so just like he was just like, "You're not gonna really give me the." I'm like, "No, I'm
This
not
is
really
yeah.
giving you
This
the
is
$30. Like,
nobody. Yeah.
this
This
is
is
life."
right.
And I even explained
Or
to him this.
or
I
loan
said,
shark him go. If I give you $30 now, I want $40 by Monday, or it
"Right,
becomes
right."
$50. Teach him about that shit.
Well, and I even told him. I said, I said, he's tired. I'm so tired. He goes, I wake up at 7 and I have to go to school, and then after school I go straight to work, and it's tiring, and I don't get home until 10 o'clock. I'm like, bro, that's life. I was like, you think this sucks? You got like easily 50 more years of this. Like, it sucks, bro. And he just doesn't. He's just like, this is. Yesterday he's like, now I know what you mean when you come home and you're tired. I was like,
Oh,
oh, hey, now we
he no,
know.
he has no idea. He has no idea. This is junior level. Wait till
Right,
and
right,
wait till he has two shit asses of his own sucking him dry every fucking day of his life.
right. This is like
At
phase
least,
one,
at
right?
least you were smart enough to get rid of the wife and just have to deal
Right,
with
right,
with two leeches instead of three. Jesus Christ!
right. Exactly. Yeah, and he doesn't understand that, but he's starting to come around. His feet hurt, my knees, my back, my neck. I'm like, you've
Good,
worked for 2 fucking weeks.
good. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So,
Good.
but yeah, no more. No, he didn't. No advance here. This isn't. That's not how we play the game.
Nope. No,
He was
sir.
so upset about it. I was like, well, Friday will come fast.
So,
Yeah.
I've been trying to book Bobby Rogers for the show, but you're
Right.
Mister can't do a podcast till like the middle of the night here, and so I tried to get him on today, and because I tried over the weekend and he couldn't do it, and he's like he goes, I'm in Atlanta. I guess he's working or something. He's on a work trip or
Oh,
something.
we fucking work. That guy hasn't worked a day in his life. He's worked as much as Nick worked.
Listen, listen. You're one to talk, but anyway, you get paid to take shits and eat donuts, basically, and sit on
This
the
is true.
conference calls all the time. So he's like, I'm in Atlanta. I should just show up at Anthony's house, and so of course the next 45 minutes was me begging him to just show up here at your house.
Oh God, I would have died.
He's like, I can't.
Oh
I'm
my
like,
God.
I'm side texting you while I'm working. And I'm like, all right, well, that would be the greatest thing ever. Just totally unannounced while you and I are podcasting. He just walks in like he's fucking Kramer or someone and just
I would have lost it. I would have lost it.
I tried
Oh.
to arrange it and it just did not happen. So
Thank God it didn't happen.
now
I mean,
that said, when the doorbell just mysteriously rings during this thing, don't have a panic attack, okay?
it's him Ubering here.
Yeah.
Oh God. Yeah. Why would you wish that upon me?
I don't, dude, because it makes for a good podcast and terrorizes you at the same time. Plus, I'm like,
But-
I've got a whole list of stuff I need to talk to him about now. I mean, like it's growing as
I know because he was sending those text messages.
yeah. So, I mean, I've got now I need to hear about the fake belt, and I need to hear about we need to talk about his participation in Blake's Jewish outrage and the controversial Hitler post and all this other stuff. We got a full show when that happens finally.
Well, it's funny though talking about I get a call today from Howard Brody. Gives me a call. First of all, let me backtrack. Howard Brody calls me last night. It's like he lives in Vegas. So what is it? A 3-hour time difference?
2 or 3. I think they're West Coast time, Pacific.
Right. So he calls me, but it's like middle of the night my time. So it's probably like 10:30 his time. I'm sleeping. I'm fucking sleeping. He calls. He texts. And I woke up from the phone. And I'm like, this motherfucker. So I gave him the button. He shoots a text. Like, if you get the button, you don't shoot a text. It's the middle of the fucking night. Have some common sense and some decency. So, anyway, this afternoon, I said, all right, it was like 3 o'clock. I said, let me call him back. So I call him back. He's like, hey, you didn't answer last night. I was like, do you not fucking understand the time difference?
That cellar dweller doesn't even know when the sun's out and when it's set, okay?
Right.
Give me
He
a
probably
break.
doesn't know what time it is there. So
It doesn't even matter if it's like noon his time.
Right.
It's like you think he goes to bed at a normal hour or gets up at a normal hour.
No. So he's like, I said, what's up? He said, you didn't see the post? I said, I don't know what post you're talking about. He goes, Lou Spector. I said, oh, Blake's boy. And he goes, it is Blake's boy. I don't understand why. So now we've got him on the train that it's Blake's boy. He doesn't understand why Lou Spector and Blake are friends.
Lou Spector, by the way, is the seediest, scumbaggiest, bottom feeder been
around forever.
That's been around forever. Nobody has ever had the gumption to remove him from the independent wrestling scene, even though he's not really involved in the independent wrestling scene. But if you talk to him, he basically built the independent wrestling scene down here in South Florida. So
that's where I'm going with this.
Right?
Hold on.
Okay.
So
I'm just trying to
like,
get people, like, we throw names out there assuming everyone knows who we're talking about. So I'm just trying to paint a little.
So he's like,
and picture visually, like, think of the seasiest, scuzziest guy with a toe in porn and another toe in independent wrestling and another toe in God knows, selling bootleg DVDs back in the day and whatever else. Picture a 6'2" 2'6".
He's pretty tall. He's tall.
Huh? Yeah, tall,
Yeah, he's
skinny,
tall.
lanky, shitty fucking facial hair. Scumbaggy kind of ponytail with like a dirty ass '90s club shirt on. There you go. That's the guy. Go ahead. Sorry.
I mean, he said 90s club shirt. He's definitely wearing the shirt that like Jericho came out in, like Y2J, but he still wears it today.
Right. He's
Like,
got a wife beater, and then he's got like an open either like a
like
bowling
shiny
shirt or
shirt.
a Cubano type shirt or
Bowling shirt.
yeah, you know what I mean.
Like he has like kind of like this mulletish kind of hair.
No,
like,
it's just a full ponytail.
like
It's all long.
porn, but it's always curly and like greasy looking. Like
Yeah,
he looks like Ron Jeremy, but skinny.
Picture if you could grow your pubes 4 feet long.
Right. he looks like a skinny Ron Jeremy.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Now you
anyway.
Not only now can you picture him, but in your head you could probably smell and taste this guy. Okay.
Right. Yeah. So anyway, so he's like, you didn't see what he posted? I said, Howard. I said, I am not friends with this guy.
Me either.
I'm not friends with him. He's like, well, he made a post. Assume he made it like he ran FOW. I said, look, that's old news. He's been getting under Bobby's skin with that forever. So I guess he made a post saying that he was the one responsible for the Davey Rodeo show, FOW. So FOW was a wrestling promotion, Future of Wrestling, back in the late 90s, early 2000s that was run by Bobby Rogers. We had a show in Davie, Florida.
That was then you took over later. Yeah.
Right. That and I don't even know. It's been 20 years, I think, since we had the show in Davie, Florida.
It's been a long time.
Davie Rodeo Arena. There was a couple thousand people there. The main event was Abdullah the Butcher versus Dusty Rhodes versus Kevin Sullivan versus Terry Funk. Me and Eric wrestled Gonzo, Big Daddy Gonzo, and I forgot the other guy's name, like Trailer Trash John or something. And then we won and immediately had to face Christian York and Joey Matthews, who were like, kind of names at that time.
Yeah. Up and coming guys.
Right. They had done ECW. So anyway, the show was great. Christopher Daniels, Low Key. I mean, you're talking top names of independent wrestling at that time. So Norman was on the show, Norman Smiley. I think he worked Billy that night. He did. Norman worked Billy.
That must have been a really good match.
It was, and it was also cool because Billy and Norman grew up together and shit, right? Or Billy used to hang out with Norman's brother, some shit. Anyway,
I think Billy still hangs out with Norman's brother.
Like they always grew up together. So anyway, hot show, couple thousand. I mean, they had 3,000-4,000 people. I don't remember what the number was. So Lou makes a post. What's that?
I was gonna say the attendance number. It's like a fish story. It probably grows every time you hear it.
Right, the arena the rodeo arena was packed. Like I do remember that. It was insane. It was insanely packed. So the bleachers were full. The floor seats were full. It's a rodeo arena. So anyway, Lou makes a post that he basically that show happened because of him. He was the mastermind behind it. He had nothing to fucking do with that show. And then he makes a second post saying that it's gonna happen again in Florida. This is a guy who's hanging on. It's not. Just shut the fuck up. It's just go away. It's not happening again like that. What happened that night with that show and how cool it was. I don't think it could happen again because A, wrestling's different now. B, Bobby did that with in a time when independent wrestling really wasn't fucking cool. Like it is now. So, but it's just he's such a bottom feeding
but that wasn't
son of a fucking dirty bitch.
But that was a show that was a culmination of FOW shows leading up to that. It wasn't that was the first show of the promotion. Right. Bobby didn't say, let's start a wrestling promotion. Let's run the Davie Rodeo. Let's sell it out. Let's book this ridiculous card. No, this was a build to this. And so Lou saying someone else going to do it. Well, who? There's no one else with a hot promotion down here. That's selling, you got to sell smaller venues out and go to bigger venues, till you get to Davie Rodeo. It doesn't even make sense, logically. Unless you want to be like our boy Mike Broder that tried to run Ronin and tried to run. His first show was going to be at the fucking War Memorial. And their attitude was go big or go home. We know how to fill a building for a fucking comic book convention. How much harder could this be? And boy, did he find out when he lost $45,000.
Right. Yeah, it's just like realistically, we know that it's. I mean, it ain't the same. It ain't the fucking same. But he's just such a bottom feeding. Like, oh, like go away. Like wrestling doesn't need people like that anymore. Like, go away.
What do you think the post is? The point of that post is he fishing for someone that
right.
wants
so
to
Howard
invest
got,
in it or something?
So I feel like two things. One, he was fishing for someone to invest, that he has some great idea. And two, that he was some wrestling genius. Like, that guy's never done anything genius in wrestling. Stop it. Like, so Howard was all up in arms. He, of course, sends it to Bobby. Bobby's like, fuck Lou, you can't stand him. But now everybody just assumes that, Blake and Lou are boys, because I just keep saying, because even Bobby was like, oh, Blake's boy? And he's like, he really does like him, doesn't he? I was like, oh, he does. I just want to give Blake all the heat I can.
Yeah, that's fine.
So I just keep telling everybody, like, it's his boy. Like,
well, it's like all these people want to complain, but no one wants to do anything. They let him exist. They let him comment on their threads. Right. They let him be friends with them so he can't comment on their threads. And then they all get upset when he does this shit. And it's like the same thing with Blake. Blake's playing politics. He doesn't want to ruffle any feathers, but he'll let the scumbag and because he lets Lou exist on his timeline and his pages, Lou now feels entitled and encouraged because Blake not only doesn't delete him or block him or anything, but also participates in a conversation with him with these things. So then, so now he feels like he's like, so then he pops up more often. Almost everything Blake posts, Lou Spector has a 50-50 chance of becoming part of the conversation thread. And when he shows up, that everyone else fucking leaves, so.
But, it's funny. So within wrestling, I was thinking about this today, too. So, because thank God my conversation with Howard, he got another call from a number he didn't know in California, and he had to answer it. I was like, oh, thank God. Because I was only on the phone for like 6 minutes instead of 6 hours. So, but I was thinking about it after. Is like, I love wrestling. And would I like to be involved? Yeah, but not really. Like, I really, like, and I don't even mean wrestling in the ring. I mean just involved in general. I start to think about, and I'm like, I don't want to be Lou Spector or like Bobby hanging on. These guys are all hanging on, like and like I don't want to be the guy who's like
you wouldn't.
Who's like
you wouldn't be. You would be the
yeah,
you would have to be. You and I think this is what I want to do. I want to run shows. I definitely want to run shows.
Right.
And I'm not gonna dump $100,000 losing money, but I know how to run a show for a certain amount of money, and if it works, great. If it doesn't, try again or move on, and after a while, whatever. I think you and I would have a fun time running shows. I think we would have a blast doing it. I know that I would have a hard time working with you because you have you have this problem of actually providing your half of the weight, and it's a considerable weight. So I feel like you would, if I were to work with you, half of my day would be spent trying to get you to do your share.
Yeah, probably. Yeah,
but I feel like you and I wouldn't be hanging around, trying to just be involved in any sense, and we're not. We don't do that. But
I hate that.
But you ran shows. You were the fucking boss. You put them together. You promoted them. Win, lose, or die, they were yours. You weren't the guy that was showing up for $10 to come out with two fat guys and be their manager. And just to be involved and to keep the spotlight on you. I have no, and say with me, I have no interest. I've been offered. Bobby has asked me, you want to be the GM for this? Yeah, I go, no, I don't want to be in the spotlight. I want to be involved in in running something and telling the stories and putting it all together and dealing with talent and putting a building together, et cetera, et cetera. No interest in that low level shit. I'll go to a show, but I'm more than happy to pay for my ticket so that I'm not like trying to pretend like I'm a Lou Spector that's sort of related to the business in some way, so I should be fucking I should be getting freebies and shit like that. You know what I mean?
Right. And so I think about when I was a wrestler, like as a young guy, there was guys that hung around that I used to say to myself, like, I wasn't born into wrestling. Like I was just a kid who got
Right.
into, I loved wrestling. I became a wrestler. I didn't know about the business at first. Like I had no clue. I just, knew to be respectful and keep
Wasn't
my mouth shut.
but
And
wasn't Luke kind of born into the business? Didn't his dad used to be involved with those guys?
yeah, like something, because when I started,
I
Lou was
think
already around.
Yeah, I think it's. I don't want to slander people, but I think Lou's dad was people's hookups for certain things, if you know what I mean.
Right.
So we'll
Well,
leave it at
so
that.
so when I got in, like I remember when I first got in, I first started, Lou was around. He used to come to Rusty's school where we trained, and he would just stand there. Like he would, and I literally used to go, "Who the fuck is this weirdo?" He was dressed the same as he's dressed today, and that was in 1998.
Right.
And I used to go, "Who the fuck is this creep? This guy's creepy. Like he's fucking weird." And I didn't know he was a wrestler, or if he was. He never got in the ring, so I was like, I don't know who the fuck this guy is. Just hangs around. And then I realized over time, oh, this guy's a hang-arounder. He's just hanging around waiting for somebody to use him for stuff, which they did, unfortunately. But there was other guys that would hang around, and I knew nothing about the business, and I knew I would see these old veterans come around. They'd be like, "Oh, that guy used to be a worker, like he's retired." I'm like, "Why does he come to every fucking show, every practice, like always like he's looking for something?" I
They
get it
were
now. He was looking for
right.
something, right? Right. And then you had guys that came around that were helpful, and like Ram Man was still wrestling back then, and Soul Man. They were still wrestling, but they had been around a while already. Prime Time, those guys. But then you had guys that would like hang around, and you knew, like, this guy's looking for a booking, and it's like that guy hasn't wrestled in like 10 years. Like he looks like shit. Like there's no way. There's no way this guy's gonna get in the ring. And occasionally they would find their way onto a card because there was a battle royal, or there was something, somebody didn't show up, or and you're like, oh my god, like, and those are the hang around. I don't want to be that. I don't want to be the guy where I come around and they're like, this fucking guy, he hasn't wrestled in 10 years. What is he doing here?
Right. Right.
I don't want to be that guy. Because it's annoying. I mean, I'm sure they say that when Billy hangs around, but whatever.
I was gonna say I know Bill.
I've been waiting to say that.
I was trying to fit it in, but then I realized when I was thinking about Billy that Billy only goes to shows like when Johnny was running shows. Johnny's his boy.
Right.
Dave's running shows. Dave's his boy. And plus,
Right.
when
Right.
Dave was running shows, they were shows for his school, and Billy would come to the school and help train the kids for Dave. He wasn't getting
Right.
paid to
Right.
do it, but he wanted to help his friend, and it's a way to be, around the business, I guess, or just to visit his friends,
Right.
like
Friends too. Right.
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 So that's a different
Right.
thing. That's supporting your friends. That's not,
Right.
you know. But yeah, fuck it. Who cares? Throw Billy. Billy's a hanger on. What the fuck?
Yeah. Right. Fuck him. Yeah. I hope he gets stuck in. Where is he? Seattle. I hope he gets stuck there.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I hope the what is that, like homeless city? They swallow him up and Billy becomes one of them.
Oh my god. I'm
Don't take that clip out.
I'm I'm curious though, because as much as he's like the tough guy and kind of a
Yeah.
like you would think just from the way he talks and a tough guy kind of attitude that he might be really like a right wing conservative dude that has no patience for the libtards. He does have two very liberal daughters, I think. And so
He does.
I
Yeah.
don't know how much of that rubs off on him. I can't say they're
Probably
both.
none.
I don't know if they're both liberal. I'm only friends with one on Facebook, but
They both are.
she seems liberal.
Yeah. But and I will say, like, I mean, it's fun shitting on Billy, but when he goes to like Gangrel school, those kids enjoy him being there because they're learning something. They respect him, and he's teaching them. He's teaching them, like, not only that you're gonna get hit really hard and don't cry about it. He's teaching them about wrestling in the business. So it's not like he's there hanging around. He's actually teaching
Plus,
them.
Billy's always a story guy. He always has some crazy
Right.
story that gets
Right.
involved with his teaching. I'm sure that involves him beating the shit out of someone or someone beating the shit out of him.
Right.
It's compelling stuff. Plus, when he shows up, I'm sure Dave's very respectful and deferential to him, which like
Right.
they're that to Dave. So when they see Dave do that to someone else, they're like, oh, their ears perk up and go, oh, this is a guy I got to
Right.
listen to, you know?
Right. Right. Yeah. And I mean, again, I think about when I started wrestling, and I've told the story before, like the Blackheart, Dave Johnson, and he was just like a fucking dick to me. And I know he was a dick. He was being a dick for a reason. He was trying to like weed out the
Well, that was
shit
the
and
old
trying to
school.
see who's
That
tough.
was the old school
Right.
way. It was to weed out the soft people that they were policing the business.
Right. 100% they were. I get it.
But it
you know,
was,
like,
it's definitely the wrong way to go about things, for sure.
right. And it just, just some of that stuff was like, now I think about it. And I mean, there came a point where I became that dick and I bullied Trevor a little bit, and, a couple other guys, me and Frank Stone got into it once, and I was
But
like, oh, respect me. I'm the
that's
veteran.
that's all
But
you
now, like,
knew. That's all you knew.
right.
It's
But I
kind of
think
like
about it now.
the abusive father. The kid becomes his abusive
Right.
father. You know.
Right. But I think about it now, and I would never do that now. Like, and it's not because of it's, the sensitive era and everybody's canceling everybody. I just, that was like the wrong way, but I didn't know any better because that's how I was treated by
Right.
Hack Myers and Casey Thompson and Dave Johnson and,
Yeah.
those guys.
It was complete hazing.
Right.
But it was physical. It's like you have hazing in like a fraternity. Or even in the military, it's very different. They're not like this
Right.
is way more physical. I feel like the military, they push you to these limits, but they're not
Mentally.
beating the fuck out of you physically every day.
Right.
They may be overworking you and stuff, but
But even to the point where, like, when I started, Rusty was, he could get in the ring, and Rusty was still working matches, and
Yeah.
Rusty had worked Hulk Hogan, Andre the Giant, Macho Man, you name it. Rusty worked every name, Steamboat, Corporal Kirshner. Uh, when he got in the ring, and I'll never forget. He would teach you stuff because he was able to. He was in the ring, But him and Flex, Flex would teach you kind of the basics, and then Rusty would teach you the other stuff. But I remember the first day we did elbow drops. You're talking a couple weeks into practice, maybe a month in, and you're gonna lay on the mat and you're gonna take an elbow, and then you're gonna, after a couple, you'll give an elbow drop. So you're gonna drop an elbow on the guy.
just rotating.
Well, Rusty was
Yeah.
right. Rusty was the one dropping elbows first, so everybody had to lay down and take an elbow. Rusty was maybe 325 pounds, maybe 350. I don't even know. He was a heavy guy,
He was.
and let me tell you, he dropped the fucking elbow. There was no, oh, wrestling's fake. No, Rusty dropped the elbow because he was trying to weed out the shit, teach you a lesson. That's just how it was back then. And I remember the first elbow.
Right, but an elbow, you're supposed to make contact. Like when you're doing like when you're working in a ring with like Dave Johnson or someone like one of the other Blackhearts or something like that. Like when they're throwing you shoot punches. That's not
Right.
they're not supposed to connect. The elbow drop's supposed to connect. I mean, you're not supposed to.
Right.
It's
different when
there's
it's
ways to
connecting
land
from,
it, but yeah.
Right. When you're connecting with an elbow from J Dog or you're connecting with an elbow from Rusty, it's a difference of like
Right.
300 pounds. So he all right, lay down, and I was fucking nervous because I was still new. I was a month in. I don't know. And I'm like, this motherfucker's gonna drop an elbow on me. Like, all I had learned to do was fall and hit the ropes and maybe lock up and take a headlock or something at that point, and some arm drags. And I'm like, there's no way. And he hit me, and I just remember all the air just going, like everything was out of me. And he's like, you all right? I'm like, yes, sir. I was like, holy shit, he just fucking elbowed me. So then it was my turn to go, and, some jabron lays down and he's like, all right, go ahead. I fucking did what Rusty did to me. I killed the kid. I fucking crushed him. And, the kid was like, oh, and Rusty's like, yeah, boy. Like, he thought it was the greatest thing ever. And I was like, that's what I learned. So when it came years later, I still dropped the elbow like that, and I still was stiff and tight. And guys were like, at that point, they were like, oh, lighten up. And I'm like, lighten up? What the fuck are they talking about? Like, are we playing volleyball or are we wrestling here?
I mean, there's a difference between working snug and like
right.
trying to hurt someone, and that was the
difference. I wasn't trying to hurt someone.
Right, you're working snug.
Snug.
But when you're working like the examples you gave before, they were trying to hurt you.
Right.
Although, the difference is though that Rusty, Now,
right,
well, Dave Johnson worked at that school too, right?
right.
See, but the difference is Rusty worked, like you said, worked Andre, worked Hogan, worked Sarge
Right,
Slaughter
right, right.
in the WWE or on big fucking cards or whatever. Trust me, those matches were light as a feather. Fucking those guys barely fucking made contact with each other, et cetera, et cetera. So,
Right, right.
so when you probably worked a match with Rusty, I'm sure those elbow drops were a lot lighter
100%.
when
Right.
you're learning them in school.
Rusty used to do this punch where he put you in a headlock, right? And he was the bad guy. So he'd put you in a headlock and he'd like turn away from the referee and he would punch you in the head, in the headlock, and it would look vicious, like, oh my God, he punched him in the head. Never touched me.
Yeah.
Ever. But visually you would go, oh shit. Never touched me. Light as a feather.
Yeah.
But in the ring, yeah, I mean, I worked Rusty, and light as a feather. So the flex, light as a feather. But then you got a guy like Dave Johnson, who was, like a fucking cinder block hitting you. And you're like, this fucking asshole. Like,
Right.
he is a dick.
Let's see him try that with Hogan or Slaughter or
Would have never. Right,
no,
right.
they
And
would have.
you remember some of these guys had like gone to Japan, and it's a different wrestling style. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, if you've never seen, like you've seen Hogan and Rusty, haven't you?
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
on YouTube.
yeah.
I mean, it was always
It gets shared on our because all of us
Right.
have like all these mutual friends of it. Every now and then
Right.
that match gets shared, along with the big name ones, Andre and blah blah
Right.
blah.
Right, right. So and for me as a kid, I was 18 years old. I'm in wrestling school with Rusty Brooks. It was a school of hard knocks. I didn't know of Rusty beforehand, but when I got there and people started talking, I went home and searched, and I'm like, holy shit! Like, this guy worked everybody.
Yeah.
And then I realized Rusty was like in the 80s, 90s. He was a jobber for WWF, where they were paying him to come in all over the country and lose to guys, big names. But he was a household name as a jobber at that time. Like, Vince McMahon going, oh, good old Rusty Brooks from Denton, Texas. And he would put Rusty over. Like, he's got a heavy right hand, and I'm like, so as a kid training with this guy, and I realized I started, Rusty was like the greatest thing in the world to me. I was like, this guy worked Hulk Hogan, like during Hogan's like prime. He worked Andre, Macho Man, Steamboat, tag matches with Bret Hart, the British Bulldog, and you're like, this guy worked everybody on national television. It was TV, it was like Saturday night, or whatever at the time it was, and Saturday morning main event, and Rusty's wrestling somebody, and I'm like, he was like a name of the jobbers at that time. It was a pretty big deal.
Yeah, I wouldn't say
I thought,
he's he's definitely an enhancement guy. I mean, he was before, I guess, a little bit before the Brawler and
right. Iron
like,
Mike Sharp.
Yeah, or what's his name, the Jewish guy patting himself on the back.
Yeah, Horowitz. Yeah,
but those are like
what
those
a
are like
horrible Jew you are. You didn't even know his name.
right. I'm a terrible Jew. But I'm just saying, like, those were the names of that type of person that Rusty was among that kind of, maybe a little earlier, but
Right.
but among that kind of level of people.
Right. And I mean, you could YouTube him and just see, I mean, but it was always cool that, like, for me, being 18 years old, being trained by this guy, and then you got guys like Smiley coming around and Gangrel and Corporal Kirshner, and they're like, oh yeah, like Rusty's the reason we're here, and I'm like, damn, like, this guy is, like, to me, he was like somebody. Like, I was being trained by somebody good. That's what.
Right. Well, out of curiosity, we're talking like 20 years ago, right?
1998, yeah.
So over 20 years ago. What other options were there back then? Down here.
Duke, the dumpster Josie.
Okay, he had a school?
The other option. Yeah. So it's funny because I don't know if I ever told you the story. So at some point, once me and Eric became kind of established, we were still going to wrestling school, just to keep, we would go 3 times a week or something like that, just to keep in shape.
I mean, I know that there were like schools up north. You know, like
Right,
if you
right,
went to
right,
like
right,
Tampa, you had like Joe Malenko's school, and I don't know who else,
right.
but
Now
yeah,
Rusty was trained by the Malenkos.
right. So you're off the
So
Malenko
Rusty,
trees, so to speak.
right, right, right. The Malenkos trained Rusty, Rusty trained me, so it's kind of like an extension of the Malenko tree, you know. And so anyway, we uh we had one point. Bill Brown was a promoter down there. He was like worked with Duke the Dumpster. They were down in Miami. Rusty ran his school in his backyard. It was, I mean, it was as low budget as possibly can be, but I would not have had it any other way because it made me, I think, a tougher person, a better wrestler. Duke the Dumpster, Josie, and Bill Brown had this big warehouse in Miami, 2 stories, like offices. I mean, it was like,
So
three
the
rings.
training montages in Rocky Four. We
It
got
was insane.
Drago,
Insane.
and you got you, Rocky, running
Right.
in the snow and lifting logs over his head. You know what I mean?
Right. Right. So anyway, we we get invited down there at one point from Bill Brown because he was like trying to recruit us. Now at that time, Rusty and him had heat. There was heat. Two different, they don't like each other. So
Well, the
uh,
competitors.
right. So we said, all right, well, let's go check it out. So we get down there and he shows us the facility, and I mean, it's fucking beautiful. And he's like, we just want to sign you guys to a contract. I was like, a what? He's like, oh, a contract, and you'll get a weekly paycheck. I was like, you are full of shit. So we like did the whole tour. We get in the car. I was like, that guy's full of shit. He's full of shit.
Where are you
Like, and
guys
he
at this?
runs.
Where are you guys at this point in your like training, learning, school
Oh
days?
no, no, we were. This was like a couple of years. We were like already like 2 years in. We were
Okay,
like the hottest thing.
okay,
He
yeah,
was
yeah.
trying to like take us, but he was like really trying to take us away from Rusty because we were still going to Rusty, and we had
So
like gone to one
you were
show.
doing Rusty shows, but you were still getting booked everywhere else, right?
Right, right. But we also, this guy was trying to like make us like exclusive to FCW and
Right.
Florida Championship Wrestling, and Mike Graham was helping them, and all this shit. And then we went to like one show and there was like 14 people there, and I'm like, this fucking guy is full of shit. It was at like a Seminole fucking Indian flea market, and they 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 booked us for one show. So I said, all right, we'll do the show. We're not signing any contract, and the show we worked 2 American Indian guys. One works for WWE right now. He's worked for WWE for a long time. You probably know him because Jackie knew him, but I don't remember his name. Uh, anyway, we worked them, and it was like, I mean, it was okay, but they were like, "So you want to sign the contracts?" And I was like, "No, we're not signing anything." So we went to Rusty and told him, and Rusty's like, "That motherfucker," because they hated each other at that point. So, uh, we stayed loyal to Rusty
Right.
because we didn't want, like, and that guy was just full of shit. So we stayed loyal to Rusty, and then then Bobby had started using us and as the Vandals, and Rusty and Bobby were on good terms at that point. Of course, they fell out at one point, and then we kind of stuck to loyal to Bobby at that point, and Rusty kind of was mad at us. But Bobby was like the next level. So,
Bobby
and that's the
Bobby
other
probably
difference.
had some really nice paydays during those days.
He did, right. So,
I mean,
I mean,
doesn't matter where the money came from, but it was,
right.
that
I
shit
mean,
still spends for you, right?
hell, one year he got us passes year pass to Universal Studios, and I'm like, this is the greatest fucking gift ever. It was like
Yeah.
a signing bonus. Uh, but yeah, it
That's
was,
why, but that's
and
why you can't do another rodeo show just out of the blue.
no,
There's no promoters down here running shows
no,
giving guys Universal Studios passes for a year.
right, right, not happening,
Yeah, there's
not happening.
not that kind of money rolling around for sure.
No, 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 no. So but I mean, uh, Rusty was kind of mad at us at that point, but we were like, Bobby was getting us some pretty good shit. We were working like a lot of good shows and a lot of good wrestlers, and you know, getting away. I worked Scotty Too Hottie. I worked on. Bobby got me booked on some big convention show in Tampa with like all names. I was the only guy not a name. I worked some guy from WCW. I don't even know who he was at the time. He was like some jobber, but he was like on TV, and it was like Bobby was getting us booked on some really good shows with really good workers and getting to work in front of like large crowds. And then of course doing the stuff in Tampa with Ron Neely was because of Bobby. Uh, but like at that point, like Rusty, I think was kind of mad at us. We kind of like lost. We, we really like didn't talk to Rusty for that time period because he was mad at us, and there was like heat, and you know, it was between he was between him and Bobby probably. I don't even
Who
know.
ran? Who
But
ran? Who ran the swap shop shows?
the swap shop, I don't remember because that was before me, wasn't it?
Yeah, that probably was before you.
Yeah, I
I
don't
don't know
remember. It
how
was
long.
probably
I don't know how long they ran them for. You know what I mean? That was back when
yeah, I don't
they
know.
still had the circus there with like the fucking
Right,
elephant.
right.
I mean, listen, there's a giant flea market in the middle of Broward County, Florida, and in the Fort Lauderdale
One of the
area.
largest attractions,
One
right?
of like the second largest attraction in South Florida. It's a flea market, but it's like gigantic. And like they used to have a circus. Like they literally owned like in the in the middle of Broward County, Florida. There were elephants and giraffes and zebras and shit like that.
Right.
That were involved in this like little 3-ring circus that was in this giant covered area, but it was the same general area off like the concession areas where they would have the wrestling. I went to like one show there because I think Brutus Beefcake was working it, and I forget who else, but whatever it was, I pulled one of the posters down that was hanging up around there. It was one of those generic ones that it's all printed in black, and the background is like that fade from yellow to pink to orange or whatever. You know what I'm talking about? Those
Right,
really
right,
generic wrestling posters, and there's really no pictures. It's just names, like the whole card.
right.
And I got like Beefcake and whoever else was there, a couple of people, some old timers and stuff to sign it, and that was the only time I ever went to Swap Shop Wrestling. But I was just wondering who ran that out of
Yeah, I don't remember. I know
because
at
you
one
mentioned the
point there was
Seminole one, so I was wondering if you.
right, yeah, yeah. Yeah, and we did do a Seminole one once that was at like the Indian reservation, and we were the main event against the two American Indians, and it was probably one of the we were bad guys. That was one of the craziest matches
Oh,
because
I
we didn't
think you
call.
you did you tell me about that, or was Marco on that show? It might have been before Marco's time, but someone told me like you guys were the heels because you were wrestling
Right,
like the native like locals.
the two, yeah, the tag team that they were called the Navajo Warriors,
Yeah.
and they were in great shape, and they were like super over, and we worked them, and man, we didn't call anything because they could work. So we didn't like call anything. We just talked. We just went at it in the ring, and man, the heat with the American, they fucking hated us because they were just so into them. And then we like did a finish where we cheated and 1, 2, 3, and the place is like they're just livid, throwing shit. But
Those are
then
the
the
best.
referee like
Those are the best.
well, yeah, but then, like one of the natives come down and he tells the ref. The ref waves it off, restarts the match. They pin me 1, 2, 3. The place goes ape shit,
Oh,
because now they won. And me and Eric were like pissed, and the Indians go over, and it's like a big fucking deal. But it was like we tricked them, and they believed it. They bought the trick. Like
right.
it was like such a good fucking
Well, I
finish.
love when
Uh,
you get a crowd for a special event like that one, or like when you
right,
guys did that biker event with Drexel
right,
and Hudak and Frank
yeah,
and all Frank Stone and all those guys. And that's when you fucking bullied Trevor. Where they like a lot of them thought the shit was real, and I'm watching when their person, just like when those natives were watching their guys, when their guy who's in their bike club is wrestling Drexel, and it's got a hardcore match, and they're going everywhere, all on this flat top behind their club. And I'm watching guys like reaching into their boots, pulling out switchblades, like they're gonna fucking shank Drexel if he keeps beating up on their boy because they're selling it and they're both bleeding. I love when you get a crowd that's not used to wrestling and isn't sure if it's
right.
real, and then see
They
people
don't know,
beating the
right,
shit
right.
out of each other, kind of half legit, and they're bleeding all over the place, like that one was. Man, nothing better than those. Those are great.
Nothing, right?
When the
Such a
crowd's
good
like
show.
fucking totally bought into it.
Yeah, no, it's
Unless you're in Puerto
it's the
Rico, and
best.
then you get, yeah, then
But
you
that
get.
was still great. It was like it was one of the greatest experiences I've ever had. It was like, but the Indian show that was great. And then we used to work And so at that time we were working for Bobby mostly, and then going to Tampa for Ron Nemi, which those shows were wild just because it was. I mean,
You were
Ron Nemi's shows were
you were
just
not one of
rock
those
and roll,
seminal
sex and
shows.
booze.
You were not one of those seminal shows where the alligator got loose, were you?
I don't remember that.
I think that Marco was out one. I think that's his story.
Yeah, no, I wasn't at that one. I
Yeah,
probably was gone by that time.
yeah.
Yeah, but no, I mean that time period
I
in
think Marco
wrestling.
was after you with when it came to
Yeah, he was
FOW.
probably. Yeah, he was probably after, but yeah, and like I don't remember that happening
Yeah,
unless I
okay.
was like really
I
high or
think that
something.
no. I
But
that might have been him. I just like I hear stories from you and him, and sometimes they're very
yeah,
similar because they happen in the same places, just at different times. So yeah.
right. Yeah, and I mean, but like I said, like that time we were wrestling for Bobby and Ron, and then we were doing like the stuff with FOW was like, I mean, that was hot at that time. But you'd get those little gigs like the Seminole Indian Show, or you get to go to like the Fort Myers to do the fair, and the fair you would think, oh, it's an outside show at the state fair, it's gonna be shit. Man, those people thought it was real.
Yeah.
Like it was like literally they'd be like pig racing at 6, wrestling at 7, and you're like, we're following fucking pig racing. This is gonna be tough, and it's packed, and people ate that shit up.
Hmm.
They thought it was real, and Rusty had to in on that with on that one, and we were still doing those shows, and they were, you could do the easiest shit on that, and the people would go nuts. They would,
I think the people that would go to a county fair are perfect, the perfect candidates to attend wrestling events.
oh,
They don't
right,
they don't usually, but they're the perfect audience for it. So when
right.
they
They
so when
are,
they do get a chance to see something like a fair show, I know like the Broward County one all the time for years and years had like the one date that you guys there was like one
right,
night where you did wrestling to the point where
right, yeah,
FCW that became NXT did them. You know,
yeah, right. They did, yeah. So yeah, I mean, those times in wrestling were so much fun, but uh, it was just like even thinking about like the Indian shows, like I don't think it would work now because guys don't know how to work that. Like they would go there and want to do 5 million high spots and jump off top ropes, and the Native Americans would be like, "What the fuck am I watching?" Like
right?
they want to see
A fight. They
they
want to see a
they
fight.
want to see right, and they want to see like good guy, bad guy,
Yeah.
and yay boo, and the bad guy cheats, and the good guy prevails, and like that's what they want to see. So I don't even know if that stuff would work nowadays, but um, yeah, those were good times, good times. But I don't want, I just don't want to be around. Like even going to Powers and TK's show in Greenville, I'm like, I just don't want to be around it. Like it's not
Well,
the
unless
same.
you were gonna wrestle, like if like they're asking you. See, here's the difference. If they're trying to book you without you hanging around,
Right,
that's a different thing than you
right,
hanging
right.
around going, "Hey, man, you got come." We used to hang in the past. You used to be my partner, and you and I used to go and do the roads and come down here and blah blah blah. Can you put me on the show? It's not like that. It's they're asking
No,
you to come and work the show. There and you're like not feeling it, and that's fine.
no, I don't
But then
want
you
to.
won't
Yeah,
get. But for you to hang around at that, I think. I mean, I understand how you feel, but they're begging you to do the show. It's a different thing than you not being like when you're talking about these other guys. 90% of the time, I think a promoter's happy when those people don't show up, so they don't have to have the uncomfortable conversation. Yeah, I got nothing for you, or the uncomfortable feeling of now
right,
having to fucking create something for them because they're willing to do something for nothing. They just want to be involved. You're like, all right, you can walk
right,
so and
right,
so out. You can fucking manage this guy, or
right.
you
I don't
can.
want to do that.
Right. Yeah. No, but you wanted to. I'm saying that I don't think if you went to the Turbo shows, which are TK and Josh Powers shows,
Right,
that you're not. Technically, you're not doing that. You're kind of doing the Billy thing. I think a little bit supporting.
right. And like I would love to go to a show. Like they asked me to work, and I just don't want to. But I would love to go to a show when it's at the brewery and drink free beer and tell them they all suck. That I would love to do.
Right. The Billy
But
thing. The Billy thing.
right, the Billy. That's exactly shit. I'm becoming Billy. Fuck. Damn it.
Literally, like you show up, You shit on everyone.
Yeah,
You drink the whole time you're there. You go out
yeah,
afterwards. You drink some more. You tell everyone how much they
yeah.
sucked and how great you were back in the day, and
Right.
that's the Billy
Oh
formula
fuck.
right there.
You know what? You're right. That's all. That's what I grew up around was that. So now I've become him.
Because
Jesus.
do you remember some of those shows we had down here when you would come down with Powers and TK
TK.
and Billy would like wasn't involved with the show at all. Like he wasn't wrestling in it, he wasn't anything, but he was at the show supporting
Hmm.
whoever, and then we'd all go out afterwards, and that was the best time because we would be sitting at some fucking bar and a restaurant till like 2 in the morning. Billy's holding court and just telling story after
Literally.
story after story. His fucking 15-year-old daughter sitting there next to him. That TK's flirting with, and we're all like, TK, cool it. You know, she's 15.
Right.
He didn't know that, but you know, to his defense, in case any fucking Billies are listening right now. But and he would just hold court. But it was like the
Yeah.
best time. That was the like who remembers the matches or whatever. That was the best time we had. Was
No, I
hanging out
don't. Yeah,
after.
right,
I
right. You
remember one
remember that,
time.
right?
God, what's his name? The big dude. I think he came down with you once or twice. Black dude had a gut, but was like big strong guy. What's his name?
Oh,
Huck.
Huck. Yeah, Huck.
Yeah, Huck. He. I mean, there was one time where he sat at the tree of Billy for like 4 hours after the show, and
Right,
all he did was listen to Billy talk for 4 fucking hours. It was like nobody else was there for Huck, you know. So,
right. And he
and,
loved it.
yeah, yeah. So, and Billy loves it. He
Right,
loves no matter what you say.
right.
Billy
Well, he likes putting himself over that fucking mark.
loves talking about himself.
Yeah,
Loves putting himself over. So,
always. Right,
but yeah, I mean, you know, that's the kind of thing like why you would go to a Turbo show because
right,
you
right,
would do the Billy thing. You would drink, you would
right.
shit on them, then you'd go out and continue to shit on them and talk about how great you were back in the day.
Yeah. Typical shit.
Tip,
Typical Billy
yeah,
shit.
typical Billy shit.
Well, oh, well, that was good. You know, I enjoyed today's conversation.
This is
I got nothing
I don't
left,
know that
but
we actually talked about anything.
no, but you know, I think it was a good story. Good story. If you like wrestling, you know, that was a good story. I think people like the insight behind some of this wrestling stuff.
Oh, well, we got plenty of that. It's just how much we're willing to talk about it.
Right.
You know, there's a
Yeah.
lot of like, you know, well, when we start telling specific stories, we gotta really pick and choose because a lot of them are not
Right. Right.
or the person that we'd be talking about isn't dead or dead enough yet to talk up to tell that story. Like
Wow.
well, that's what I'm saying. Like there's a lot of stories I could tell about this guy, but he's you know, let's save them till he's no longer here,
Right. Right.
or it's only been 2 months. We got to wait 4 more.
Jesus.
What? I mean, I'm not.
Oh God.
I mean, don't pretend like you're offended by that.
You're awful. Awful.
You know,
Well, all
I'm
right.
chomping.
I got
Wait a
nothing
minute.
left. I got nothing
I'm
else.
just saying. I'm chomping at the bit for the for 2023. I can't wait to tell the stories that we can't tell in 2022.
You're such an idiot.
I am. I'm a dick. I don't care.
Oh.
I love making you uncomfortable about it too. By the way,
Yeah,
that's
I know you do.
so. What's the title of this episode? Typical Billy shit. Is that what we're gonna fucking call it?
No, I don't want him listening.
I think this is the perfect time to get him back on board. Get him a little fired up. Listen, like I said, we know I'm live within fucking spitting distance of him, so I'm the one in real trouble here. You're
Well, hopefully, you know, look. Hopefully, he gets lost in Seattle.
you're like a
Sleepless in
$75
Seattle, Billy.
you're like a $75 plane flight. So if the perfect thing is if he listens to this in Seattle, he might just be willing to use some points to detour it to Atlanta and drop by and pay you a visit before he gets back here to Fort Lauderdale. So
No,
it's the
he's
perfect
not. He's
time
not people.
to kind of get on Billy's radar again, just in case. Because I couldn't get Bobby Rogers to show up your house. Maybe we can get Billy there this weekend. Let's shoot
No,
for
we can't
that.
do that. Let's move on from that.
Well, there's no moving on. We're done. We're ending with that.
Oh, Billy's he's very busy man.
He's what?
He's a very busy man.
I know.
He doesn't have time for me.
And everyone's busy. You're busy. He's busy.
Yeah, I'm busy.
Yada yada.
Yeah. All right.
All
I
right.
got nothing left. I gotta go find some food.
Why don't you book a guest for Sunday? Why don't you do that? Why don't you help out the show a little? Oh, by the way, helping out the
Yeah.
show. One more thing. I want to apologize to anyone who's listening to this podcast who was looking for the podcast on our website the last few weeks. I didn't realize something like I changed the format of the website.
Right.
And it, like, for some reason, shifted it to private. And the problem was I would go test the website, but because I'm the owner and I'm logged into the editing thing, it would show it to me, so I didn't think there was anything wrong. I was just testing changes and stuff like that. And then you're like messaging me today, goes, "What's wrong with the website?" I'm like, "What?" And I go and test it, and it still works. And you're like, people are going there and they can't. And I'm like, "Why are they going to the website?" And then I'm like, "Oh, that's why our podcast numbers are so down.
Right.
People actually go to the website for the links." I thought people were just bookmarking it on their streamer of choice, and
I guess not.
and every week it would just pop. Every time a new episode come on, they'd get an alert. But I guess a lot of people are just swinging by the website every couple of days to see if there's a new one out. And my bad, I did not realize it was set to private. So
we're fixed now. We're fixed.
You could catch up from the last like 2 weeks or 2.5 weeks since this happened.
Right.
That's totally my bad. I'll fall on that sword. Mea culpa, or whatever you want to call it. So I just wanted to apologize.
About time you took the fucking blame.
Well, it's about time I fucked up. You know, I'm still like in the grand ledger. There's one mark on my side and about like 75 on yours. So
that's true. But
yes,
okay.
So
whatever.
So why don't you book a guest for Sunday?
I'll see what I can do.
Which means set a time that you want to do it Sunday, and then just let me know, and I'll make myself.
I'm very busy this week.
I know, busy man.
Fit it in.
So talk to the guest you want, figure out what time works for both of you, and then let me know. I'll make it as easy as possible. And now, people, when we have no guest on Sunday or Monday's podcast, it's all on him. He's been asked. He's now got to come through. He's got to do something for this show other than just show up. So anyway, I'm done with you now. It's 8 o'clock. It's 8 o'clock.
It's 8 o'clock. I gotta go eat. Goodbye.
Yeah, bye.